Let's talk about the practicum experience. The experience itself involves completing 100 service learning hours to the setting that you've been placed in, which could either be a community or a food service setting. In addition to that, there'll be a maximum of 20 hours utilized to reflect on your experience in your facility in the form of a blog. And we'll talk about the blog at length at the beginning of next semester. It's not necessary that you do anything with the blog other than to be thinking about, if you do start hours prior to the beginning of the semester, to be thinking about things that you might be interested in reflecting on. The other thing that Practicum will do is it'll meet once a week for class on Wednesdays from 12 to 1:45. With one exception, the very first week of the semester, we're going to meet on both Wednesday and Friday. We'll need that Friday class in order to be able to get ourselves all situated with the blogging assignment. Every class day will have a homework and a project. Every class will have a homework, and there's one major project for class. Aside from that, all the work related to this class is specifically connected to the 100 service learning hours. So let's talk about what you will do in your experiences. It depends on the facility that you're placed in. A number of our facilities are related to a version of the Early Sprouts program. Other facilities, like Keene Senior Center, is about providing congregate meal and education to elders. And then Head Start is also going to be more of an Early Sprouts program. And then we have a few other miscellaneous experiences. So depending on the facility, it will determine exactly what you're going to be asked to do. There are set responsibilities or expectations for both the preceptor as well as you, and there is a form that I've sent to you called General Guidelines for Practicum, and there it outlines what your responsibilities are and what the facility's responsibilities are. So you want to make sure you read through that so you're pretty clear. But in summary, you're going to need to take the initiative and to maintain all communications to make sure that your hours are scheduled and that you complete them within the semester, and identify with your preceptor a minimum of 3 service projects. Now, these service projects we call the needs and opportunities, and they can be big or they can be small. You will need to be prepared to begin your hours the first week of the semester, and that will mean that you're going to need to contact your preceptor a couple of weeks before the semester starts, just to make sure you're ready to rock and roll. We want to make sure that there's no stress with getting your hours in before the end of the semester. The other thing to keep in mind is if you're working in a school situation, you want to take a look at how many vacation days or teacher workshop days or things that vacations that might get in the way of you completing your hours, and plan accordingly. And lastly, you're going to need to maintain a timesheet of your hours. So what counts as hours? So think of yourself as an independent contractor. Anytime you're on site, you would count those hours, regardless of what you're doing. If you're physically there, it's like you're at the workplace. In addition, anytime you're working on a practicum-related project at home, so maybe you're researching something, maybe you're putting a bulletin board together, maybe you're doing a newsletter, it could be any number of things. So the important thing is to recognize that if you were an independent contractor, you'd be billing for that time. So those types of hours are going to be included on your timesheet. And then, of course, up to 20 hours can be spent working on your blogs, which again, we'll go into more detail on the first day of class. So let's talk about what those service projects are. Oops, I went the wrong way. What are service projects? All right, so with service projects, they can be anything. So they could be big, they could be small. They could be things like, as I indicated before, a bulletin board or newsletter, or it could be a development of a recipe. It could be development of a class. It could be putting together a table for a educational event. It could be reorganizing a storeroom. It could be doing something related to a policy and procedures, updating something, working on menus. The list is really endless, and some of them are small and some of them are large. Things to keep in mind is that if you are involved in a large project, you absolutely and positively can break that large project down into 3 smaller projects to go on your needs and opportunities, but what you want to do is have a conversation very early on in the semester about what some of those service projects might be. Now, your preceptor might have some specific things that they want you to work on, or perhaps once you've been there, you can see things that you feel that you could assist on or create. So the idea is that from the moment you step foot into your practicum placement, you want to be keeping in mind that you need a minimum of 3 service projects. All right, so let's talk about what counts as hours. So some certifications can count as hours. So for example, Early Sprouts, there's an online certification program that's about 10 hours. You've got to complete the entire 10 hours in order to get the 10 hours. And there's a newer one that I think is a little shorter called Healthy Eaters. Both of those are available to students at a significant discount because they have been created by Keene State staff. So I think it's $20, and I do have some guidelines that assist you in how you sign up for them. My understanding is you can do it all online as well. It's all like an online learning environment. If you're going to the CDC, Head Start, and Montessori, where you're going to do Early Sprouts, then you're required to complete the Early Sprouts certification prior to beginning your rotation. This is an advantage over the summer is because you can begin your hours ahead of time. If you are in the Catch After School program, their program is kind of loosely modeled on the Early Sprouts program, so it is suggested you complete it, not required, and anyone else in any of the other rotations is perfectly appropriate for you to choose to do either or both of these certifications. It's a way of getting some additional hours that wouldn't require you to be on your facility. Otherwise, as we talked about, the things that count as hours are things like anything that you're doing on site or, all right. So can I complete hours before the semester begins? All right, so the question, this is a good question because some people want to get a head start on their hours. So different facilities run during the summer and have opportunities during the summer. So for example, Keene State Wellness, Tiffany doesn't typically have anything to work on during the summer. But the Keene Senior Center, if you're in the area, probably does have something you can work on during the summer. The after-school program or the after-school program in particular, you could be working on bulletin boards or handfuls of other things that you could do from home, or you could do certifications from home. Those are things that you could do without any necessarily special permission from the facility. As far as spending time on the facility or with the facility to begin your hours earlier, you need to work that out with the facility supervisor. That is something independent of the practicum class. Obviously, the hours count, but we don't negotiate whether or not you can do hours ahead of the semester or not. That is something that you need to work directly with them. So if you're interested in getting a head start, on your own, you could do any of the certifications or talk to the facility preceptor to see if there's any home projects you might be able to do or on-site projects you might be able to do. All right, so there is some paperwork that needs to be completed. So before leaving for break, you need to go see Barbara Beaton, who's our administrative assistant on the second floor of Joslin, to complete this practicum contract paperwork. It is your responsibility to carry both car and health insurance, knowing that any problems or injuries you obtain while doing your practicum experiences are your financial responsibilities, and essentially that contract outlines that. The other thing you want to do is ask your facility if there are any required orientation or other paperwork, and get this completed before the first week of the semester. You do not want to be getting here and spending 2 or 3 weeks before you can even start your hours. You're going to have a very hard time completing your hours if you do it that way. So you need to be really proactive at getting that taken care of. As I indicated before, I want you to read the nutrition practicum guidelines that have been outlined because they outline your responsibilities and the preceptor's responsibilities, and also give you some ideas of what service projects might look like. The other thing you're going to need to do is maintain a timesheet as soon as you begin hours. You're going to maintain 2 separate timesheets, and the form again will be emailed to you. There are 2 separate. Print out 2 separate ones. And you're going to use one, we're going to separate them out so blogging hours and certification hours are on one timesheet, and then any service hours to the facility are on the other timesheet. So if you have any questions about what you can or cannot do, or how the process is supposed to work, then you can certainly email me at any time, or even we could arrange a phone call if that works best for you. It is important that you contact them immediately and make sure that you are all set to get started uh, as soon as the semester finishes. We have seasoned preceptor locations, and they've all been vetted and they've been utilized for several semesters. So I know that you will have good preceptors and have a good experience.